in the heart of 17th century Europe, a continent embroiled in constant turmoil, shifting alliances, and unyielding ambitions. A woman of quiet determination and grace stepped into the limelight. Luise Henriette of Orange-Nassau, born into the illustrious House of Orange, would become more than just a bride in a strategic marriage. She would be a beacon of stability, cultural advancement, and political foresight in a tumultuous era. Her story, though often overshadowed by the towering figure of her husband, Frederick William, the Great Elector of Brandenburg, deserves recognition as one of resilience, diplomacy, and enduring influence. Europe, during the early 1600s, was a chessboard where empires clashed, religion divided, and the future of nations was decided through treaties and warfare. The 30 Years' War, 1618 to 1648, a devastating conflict that reshaped the continent, had left the Holy Roman Empire fractured and weakened. Amidst this chaos, the electorate of Brandenburg, under the rule of the House of Hohenzollern, sought to secure its place among the great powers. The Dutch Republic, flourishing under the leadership of the House of Orange-Nassau, stood as a beacon of economic prosperity and military resilience. A union between these two houses promised mutual benefits. The Hohenzollerns would gain access to Dutch wealth and expertise, while the Dutch would secure a Protestant ally in the fragmented Holy Roman Empire. Luise Henriette was born on November 7, 1627, in The Hague, into a family that personified the ideals of the Dutch Golden Age. Her father, Frederick Henry, Prince of Orange, was a skilled military commander and statesman, and her mother, Amalia of Solms-Braunfels, was a woman of extraordinary intellect and social acumen. The court of the House of Orange was a thriving center of art, science, and diplomacy, and it was within this vibrant environment that Luise Henriette developed the qualities that would later define her role as the Electress of Brandenburg. As a child, Luise Henriette was exposed to the political intricacies of her time. The Dutch Republic was not just a military power, but also a hub of cultural and scientific advancement. The works of Rembrandt and Vermeer adorned the walls of noble homes, while thinkers like Grotius and Spinoza reshaped philosophical discourse. Young Luise Henriette was tutored in the arts, languages, and diplomacy, preparing her for a future that would demand both intellect and adaptability. She grew up understanding the delicate balance between power and persuasion, a skill that would serve her well in the harsh political climate of Brandenburg. The marriage between Luise Henriette and Frederick William was arranged in 1646, during a period when such unions were calculated moves in the grand game of European politics. At first glance, the match seemed an unlikely one. Frederick William, 5 years her senior, was a serious and pragmatic man, shaped by the hardships of the 30 Years' War and the weight of his title. Luise Henriette, by contrast, brought a spark of vitality and a connection to the prosperous Dutch Republic. Yet, their marriage would prove to be a partnership not only of political convenience but also of mutual respect and shared vision. Their wedding, held in The Hague, was a grand affair, attended by dignitaries and nobles from across Europe. The union was celebrated as a symbol of Protestant solidarity, a beacon of hope amidst the ruins left by decades of war. However, the path ahead was far from easy. Brandenburg, though rich in potential, was a land scarred by conflict, with an economy in shambles and a fragmented populace. Frederick William's vision to transform his territory into a formidable state required not only military prowess but also the soft power of diplomacy and cultural renewal, roles that Luise Henriette would embrace with grace and determination. When Luise Henriette arrived in Brandenburg, she was met with a stark contrast to her vibrant upbringing in the Dutch Republic. Berlin, then a modest city, lacked the grandeur of The Hague. The court was austere, and the challenges were many. Yet, rather than retreating into the shadows, Luise Henriette stepped forward as a partner to her husband, bringing with her the knowledge and experience gained from her Dutch heritage. She introduced innovative agricultural techniques from the Netherlands, helping to revitalize Brandenburg's economy. Her efforts to modernize the region's infrastructure laid the groundwork for future prosperity. Beyond her economic contributions, Luise Henriette played a pivotal role in shaping Brandenburg's cultural identity. She became a patron of the arts, commissioning works that reflected both her Dutch roots and her adopted homeland. Her influence extended to the realm of religion, where her Calvinist faith provided a moral compass for Frederick William's policies. Together, they worked to foster a sense of unity among their subjects, navigating the delicate balance between Protestant and Catholic factions within the electorate. Luise Henriette's impact was not confined to her time as electress. She was a devoted mother, ensuring that her children received an education befitting their station. Her eldest son, Frederick, would go on to become the first king of Prussia, carrying forward the legacy of his parents. Through her guidance and example, she instilled in her children the values of leadership, resilience, and service. In the decades that followed her marriage, Luise Henriette emerged as a stabilizing force in Brandenburg. Her partnership with Frederick William was one of equals, each complementing the other's strengths. While he focused on military and political strategy, she worked behind the scenes to secure alliances, manage estates, and promote cultural and economic development. Together, they laid the foundation for Brandenburg-Prussia's transformation into a major European power. Luise Henriette's life, though cut short by illness in 1667, left an indelible mark on Brandenburg-Prussia. Her legacy as a builder, diplomat, and mother continued to shape the Hohenzollern dynasty for generations. In her memory, Frederick William constructed the Oranienburg Palace, a testament to her contributions and a symbol of the enduring bond between the Dutch Republic and Brandenburg. As we delve deeper into the chapters of her life, we will explore not only the milestones of her journey but also the enduring lessons of her story. Luise Henriette of Orange-Nassau was more than just a footnote in history. She was a driving force behind the rise of Brandenburg-Prussia, a woman whose influence resonated far beyond her own time. Born into one of the most illustrious families in 17th-century Europe, Luise Henriette of Orange-Nassau was destined for a life of significance. Her birth on November 7, 1627, in The Hague marked the arrival of a child who would later bridge the worlds of the Dutch Republic and the Holy Roman Empire. Luise Henriette's childhood was set against the backdrop of the Dutch Golden Age, a time of remarkable cultural, scientific, and political achievement. It was a period when the Dutch Republic, small in size but vast in influence, stood as a beacon of progress in a continent torn by war. Her father, Frederick Henry, was the reigning Prince of Orange, a military commander whose strategic brilliance had solidified the Dutch Republic's independence during the 80 Years' War against Spanish rule. A figure of great respect, Frederick Henry was more than a soldier. He was a statesman who understood the delicate balance required to maintain the Republic's prosperity and sovereignty. Under his leadership, the House of Orange became a symbol of unity and resilience for the fledgling Republic. Luise Henriette's mother, Amalia of Solms-Braunfels, was equally formidable, a German noblewoman by birth. Amalia had fled the chaos of the 30 Years' War to find refuge in The Hague, where she became a close confidant of Elizabeth Stuart, the exiled Queen of Bohemia. Amalia's sharp intellect, political acumen, and deep sense of duty made her an ideal partner for Frederick Henry. Together, they shaped a household that was not only politically powerful but also culturally vibrant. As a child, Luise Henriette thrived in this environment. The court of the House of Orange was a microcosm of the Dutch Republic's golden age. Bustling with artists, philosophers, and scientists, painters like Rembrandt and Gerard van Honthorst adorned the family's residences with masterpieces, while scholars such as Hugo Grotius revolutionized legal thought. This was the world in which Luise Henriette grew up, a world where the pursuit of knowledge and beauty was intertwined with the pragmatic demands of governance. From an early age, Luise Henriette exhibited qualities that set her apart. She was curious and intelligent, traits that were nurtured through her education, unlike many girls of her time, whose learning was often confined to domestic skills. Luise Henriette received a rigorous education that included languages, history, theology, and the arts. She became fluent in several languages, including Dutch, German, and French, an invaluable skill for a woman who would later navigate the complex world of European diplomacy. Her upbringing also instilled in her a strong sense of identity and purpose. The House of Orange was not just a family. It was an institution that embodied the ideals of the Dutch Republic. Luise Henriette grew up understanding that her actions carried weight, not just for her family but for the millions of people who looked to the House of Orange for leadership. This sense of duty would remain a cornerstone of her character throughout her life. The Dutch Republic during Luise Henriette's youth was a unique political entity. Unlike the monarchies that dominated Europe, the Republic was a confederation of provinces, each with a significant degree of autonomy. Its governance was characterized by a delicate balance between the States General, a body representing the provinces, and the House of Orange, which provided military leadership. This structure required constant negotiation and compromise, lessons that Luise Henriette absorbed as she watched her father and mother navigate the intricacies of power. One of the most formative aspects of Luise Henriette's early life was her exposure to the arts and sciences. The Dutch Republic was a hub of innovation, and its cities were teeming with intellectual energy. In The Hague, Luise Henriette was surrounded by the works of painters like Vermeer, who captured the quiet dignity of everyday life, and by the discoveries of scientists like Christian Huygens, who pushed the boundaries of human knowledge. This cultural richness left an indelible mark on her, shaping her appreciation for beauty and her belief in the transformative power of knowledge. Yet, life in the House of Orange was not without its challenges. The Dutch Republic, though prosperous, was constantly under threat from external enemies and internal divisions. Spain, still reeling from its loss in the 80 Years' War, sought to regain its foothold in the Netherlands. Meanwhile, tensions between the provinces and the central authority of the States General threatened to undermine the Republic's unity. These challenges required constant vigilance and adaptability, qualities that Luise Henriette observed in her parents and would later emulate. Amid these pressures, Luise Henriette's family placed great emphasis on the importance of alliances. The marriage of her parents had been a union of political necessity, and Luise Henriette grew up knowing that her own marriage would likely serve a similar purpose. This understanding shaped her view of relationships, imbuing her with a sense of pragmatism that would prove invaluable in her later role as Electress of Brandenburg. As Luise Henriette entered her teenage years, her role within the House of Orange began to evolve. She was no longer just a daughter of the family. She was a potential asset in the intricate web of European alliances. Her education and upbringing had prepared her for this moment. She was not only well-versed in the art of diplomacy, but also deeply aware of the responsibilities that came with her position. The first hints of her future role emerged in 1640, when Luise Henriette's father began exploring marriage prospects for her. Europe at the time was a patchwork of alliances, and the House of Orange sought to strengthen its position by forging ties with other Protestant powers. Among the suitors considered was Charles II of England, then a young prince in exile. While such a union would have been politically advantageous, it ultimately did not come to fruition, leaving Luise Henriette's future open to other possibilities. The turning point came in 1646 when Frederick William, the Elector of Brandenburg, expressed interest in marrying Luise Henriette. Brandenburg, a significant territory within the Holy Roman Empire, was emerging from the devastation of the 30 Years' War. Its ruler, Frederick William, was a pragmatic and ambitious leader determined to restore his land's fortunes. A marriage to Luise Henriette offered him a connection to the Dutch Republic's wealth and expertise, while for the House of Orange, the union promised to strengthen ties with a key Protestant ally. The prospect of marriage to Frederick William marked a new chapter in Luise Henriette's life. It was a transition that required her to leave behind the familiar world of the Dutch Republic for the uncertainties of a foreign court. Yet, she approached this new phase with the same sense of duty and resilience that had defined her upbringing. In her, the House of Orange had not only a daughter but a diplomat, a builder, and a bridge between two worlds. As she prepared to embark on this journey, Luise Henriette carried with her the lessons of her youth, the importance of adaptability, the power of alliances, and the belief that leadership was as much about serving others as it was about wielding power. These lessons would guide her as she stepped into her role as Electress of Brandenburg, a role that would shape not only her own destiny but also the future of Europe. In the summer of 1646, the 19-year-old Luise Henriette of Orange-Nassau set foot on the soil of Brandenburg for the first time. It was a moment filled with anticipation and uncertainty, not just for her, but for the people of Brandenburg who eagerly awaited their new electress. The journey from The Hague to Berlin was more than a physical passage. It was a transition from the vibrant prosperity of the Dutch Republic to the austere realities of a war-ravaged land. Brandenburg, though vast in territory, was a region struggling to recover from the devastation of the 30 Years' War. For Luise Henriette, it would be a land of opportunity and challenge, a place where she would forge her legacy as a builder, diplomat, and mother. Her arrival in Berlin was met with a mix of celebration and cautious optimism. The marriage of Luise Henriette to Frederick William, the Great Elector, symbolized hope for the future of Brandenburg. For Frederick William, the union brought not only a connection to the wealth and expertise of the Dutch Republic, but also a partner whose intelligence and resolve would complement his own ambitions. For Luise Henriette, the marriage represented a chance to leave her mark on a region that desperately needed stability and renewal. From the outset, it was clear that Luise Henriette's new home was vastly different from the court of her youth. Berlin in the mid-17th century was a modest city, still recovering from the scars of war. Its streets were narrow and unpaved, its buildings plain and functional. The grandeur of The Hague, with its art-filled halls and bustling markets, was a distant memory. Yet, rather than lamenting the starkness of her surroundings, Luise Henriette saw potential. She recognized that her role as Electress was not simply to adapt to Brandenburg but to help transform it. The early years of her marriage were marked by adaptation and learning. Luise Henriette quickly realized that her position required more than ceremonial duties. Brandenburg was a patchwork of territories with diverse cultures, religions, and interests. Governing it demanded a nuanced understanding of its complexities, something Frederick William was already adept at navigating. As his wife, Luise Henriette became not just a supportive partner, but an active participant in his vision for Brandenburg's future. One of the first challenges she faced was winning the trust of her new subjects. The people of Brandenburg, weary from decades of war, were initially skeptical of their Dutch-born electress. However, Luise Henriette's genuine interest in their well-being soon became evident. She took the time to learn about the needs and concerns of the various communities within Brandenburg, from the merchants of Berlin to the farmers in the countryside. Her efforts to connect with her subjects earned her respect and loyalty, laying the groundwork for her future initiatives. Luise Henriette's influence began to manifest in tangible ways. Drawing on her Dutch heritage, she introduced innovative agricultural practices that helped revitalize Brandenburg's struggling economy. The Dutch were renowned for their expertise in land reclamation and farming, and Luise Henriette brought this knowledge to Brandenburg, encouraging the use of drainage systems and crop rotation to improve yields. These measures, though modest at first, had a profound impact on the region's recovery, providing much-needed food and stability to its people. Her contributions extended beyond the fields. Luise Henriette was also instrumental in fostering cultural and architectural development. She worked closely with Frederick William to rebuild and modernize Berlin, transforming it into a more livable and vibrant city. One of her most notable projects was the establishment of Oranienburg Palace, a residence that would become a symbol of her vision for Brandenburg. located on the banks of the Havel River. The palace was more than a retreat. It was a statement of optimism and renewal, blending Dutch and German architectural styles to reflect the union of their two worlds. As Electress, Luise Henriette also embraced a role as a diplomat. Frederick William's ambitions for Brandenburg required careful navigation of the complex political landscape of Europe, and Luise Henriette's connections to the Dutch Republic proved invaluable. She maintained correspondence with her family in The Hague, leveraging her ties to secure financial support and military alliances for Brandenburg. Her efforts helped strengthen the relationship between the two states, providing Frederick William with the resources he needed to pursue his goals. Despite her many successes, Luise Henriette's early years in Brandenburg were not without challenges. The aftermath of the 30 Years' War had left deep divisions within the region, particularly in matters of religion. Brandenburg was home to both Protestant and Catholic communities, and tensions between them threatened to undermine the elector's efforts to unify his territories. As a devout Calvinist, Luise Henriette played a key role in promoting religious tolerance, encouraging policies that allowed for coexistence and mutual respect. Her approach to faith was one of compassion and inclusivity, reflecting her belief that unity was essential for Brandenburg's recovery. In her personal life, Luise Henriette found both joy and sorrow. Her marriage to Frederick William, though initially a political arrangement, grew into a genuine partnership based on mutual respect and shared purpose. Together, they faced the joys of parenthood, welcoming their first child, Frederick, in 1657. However, the loss of several of their children in infancy was a source of deep grief, a reminder of the fragility of life in an era marked by hardship. Through these trials, Luise Henriette's resilience and faith remained steadfast, inspiring those around her. As the years passed, Luise Henriette's influence within Brandenburg continued to grow. Her vision for the region was one of renewal and progress, and her efforts to modernize its economy, infrastructure, and culture began to bear fruit. She worked tirelessly alongside Frederick William, complementing his military and political strategies with her own contributions to the social and cultural fabric of Brandenburg. Together, they formed a dynamic partnership that would set the stage for the rise of Brandenburg Prussia as a major European power. By the end of her first decade in Brandenburg, Luise Henriette had firmly established herself as a leader in her own right. Her journey from a Dutch princess to the Electress of Brandenburg was more than just a change of title. It was a testament to her ability to adapt, innovate, and lead. In a land that had once been defined by its struggles, she became a symbol of hope and resilience, a woman whose impact would be felt for generations to come. By the mid-1650s, Luise Henriette of Orange-Nassau had firmly established herself as a transformative figure in Brandenburg. The devastation left by the 30 Years' War had scarred not only the land but also the spirits of its people. For Luise Henriette, the path to healing and progress lay in creation, building a better future through infrastructure, agriculture, and culture. Her legacy as a builder began to take shape during this period, not merely in the physical structures she helped create, but also in the foundations she laid for Brandenburg's resurgence. One of her most enduring contributions was the construction of Oranienburg Palace, an estate that stood as a testament to her vision and determination. Initially known as Botso Castle, the property was gifted to Luise Henriette by Frederick William in 1650. What began as a simple residence evolved into a grand project under her direction. Inspired by her Dutch roots, she set about transforming the castle into a magnificent palace that would embody both her personal identity and her hopes for Brandenburg. The redesign of Oranienburg was a blend of Dutch practicality and German grandeur. Luise Henriette enlisted architects and craftsmen who brought the aesthetics of the Dutch Golden Age to the banks of the Havel River. The gardens were meticulously planned, with geometric patterns and vibrant floral displays reminiscent of those in The Hague. The palace itself became a hub of activity, hosting courtly gatherings and diplomatic meetings. Yet, Oranienburg was more than a symbol of power. It was a space that reflected her commitment to improving the lives of her people. Beyond the palace walls, Luise Henriette focused on revitalizing Brandenburg's agricultural economy. The Dutch were renowned for their innovative farming techniques, and she saw an opportunity to apply these methods to Brandenburg's fields. One of her most notable initiatives was the introduction of advanced drainage systems to reclaim swampy land for cultivation. This not only expanded arable land but also improved living conditions for the rural population. Farmers, many of whom had struggled to recover from the war's devastation, found new opportunities under her guidance. Her agricultural efforts extended to the introduction of new crops and livestock. Drawing from Dutch expertise, she encouraged the cultivation of clover and other fodder crops, which helped improve soil fertility and livestock health. These advancements had a cascading effect on Brandenburg's economy, bolstering food security and creating surplus goods for trade. Through her leadership, Brandenburg began to shed its reputation as a war-torn backwater and emerge as a region of promise and potential. Luise Henriette's contributions were not limited to economic development. She was deeply invested in the cultural and spiritual renewal of Brandenburg, recognizing the importance of religion as a unifying force. She championed the construction of churches and schools that served both Protestant and Catholic communities. Her Calvinist faith, though central to her own identity, did not preclude her from advocating for tolerance and inclusivity. This approach helped ease tensions in a region divided by religious conflict, fostering a sense of shared purpose among its diverse inhabitants. The Electress's role as a builder extended to education and intellectual life. Under her patronage, schools were established to provide basic education for children, particularly in rural areas. She understood that an educated populace was essential for Brandenburg's recovery and growth. Her support for literacy and learning laid the groundwork for future reforms that would elevate the region's intellectual standing. Luise Henriette's influence also reached the arts, where she played a pivotal role in cultivating a cultural renaissance. She supported local artists and craftsmen, commissioning works that celebrated Brandenburg's history and aspirations. The arts flourished under her patronage, creating a sense of pride and identity among the people. In this way, her contributions were not just about physical structures or economic policies. They were about building a sense of community and hope. Her partnership with Frederick William was key to the success of these endeavors. The Great Elector, as he came to be known, relied on Luise Henriette's insights and connections to achieve his broader goals for Brandenburg. Their collaboration was a marriage of pragmatism and idealism, with Frederick William focusing on military and political strategy, while Luise Henriette addressed the social and cultural needs of their realm. Together, they were architects of a vision that extended far beyond their own lifetimes. Oranienburg Palace became a microcosm of Luise Henriette's ambitions. It was a place where innovation and tradition coexisted, where diplomacy and culture intersected. The palace gardens, with their intricate designs and imported plants, reflected her belief in the transformative power of beauty and order. Inside, the halls were adorned with art and furnishings that spoke to her dual heritage as a Dutch princess and Brandenburg's electress. The palace was not merely a personal retreat. It was a statement of what Brandenburg could become, a land of refinement, progress, and unity. Yet, her efforts were not without challenges. The financial strain of rebuilding Brandenburg often clashed with Frederick William's military expenditures. The Elector's campaigns to expand and defend his territories required significant resources, leaving limited funds for domestic projects. Despite these constraints, Luise Henriette found ways to advance her initiatives, often leveraging her connections to the Dutch Republic for support. Her determination and resourcefulness were critical in overcoming the obstacles that stood in the way of her vision. As the 1650s gave way to the 1660s, the impact of Luise Henriette's work became increasingly evident. The fields she had helped reclaim were producing bountiful harvests. The schools she had championed were educating a new generation, and the cultural institutions she had nurtured were flourishing. Brandenburg, once a land marked by war and despair, was beginning to find its footing, thanks in no small part to the efforts of its electress. Luise Henriette's role as a builder was not limited to her lifetime. The foundations she laid, both literal and metaphorical, would continue to support Brandenburg's rise for generations to come. Her vision, grounded in practicality yet inspired by hope, transformed a struggling region into a land of opportunity and promise. Through her work, she left an enduring legacy, one that would shape the identity of Brandenburg, Prussia, and its people. As Oranienburg Palace stood as a testament to her achievements, so too did the lives of the countless individuals who benefited from her leadership. Farmers, artisans, and students all found new opportunities under her guidance. In their success, Luise Henriette's true legacy was realized, not just in the buildings she constructed or the policies she enacted, but in the lives she touched and the future she helped shape. Luise Henriette of Orange-Nassau was not only a visionary builder and cultural patron, but also a crucial player in the diplomatic strategies that shaped Brandenburg's future. In a Europe rife with political intrigue and shifting alliances, her intelligence, tact, and connections proved indispensable to Frederick William, the Great Elector. Together, they navigated the complexities of 17th-century geopolitics, forging alliances and maintaining stability in a volatile landscape. For Luise Henriette, diplomacy was not just about treaties and negotiations. It was about securing a better future for Brandenburg and its people. The mid-17th century was a time of significant upheaval. The 30 Years' War had ended in 1648 with the Peace of Westphalia, but its aftermath left the Holy Roman Empire fragmented and vulnerable. France under Louis XIV was rising as a dominant power, while the Dutch Republic, despite its prosperity, faced threats from both Spain and England. In this precarious environment, Brandenburg's survival and growth depended on strategic partnerships and careful maneuvering. Luise Henriette's Dutch heritage gave her a unique advantage in this arena. Her family, the House of Orange-Nassau, was one of the most influential in Europe, and her marriage to Frederick William brought with it a web of connections that extended across the Protestant world. Her correspondence with her family in The Hague was more than a matter of personal affection. It was a lifeline for Brandenburg's diplomatic endeavors. Through these ties, she acted as a bridge between Brandenburg and the Dutch Republic, facilitating financial and military support that was crucial for Frederick William's ambitions. One of Luise Henriette's most significant contributions was her role in fostering the alliance between Brandenburg and the Dutch Republic. This partnership, grounded in shared Protestant values and mutual interests, was vital for both states. For Brandenburg, the Dutch provided expertise in agriculture, trade, and infrastructure, as well as much-needed financial aid. For the Dutch, Brandenburg served as a strategic ally in Central Europe, a counterbalance to the Catholic powers of Austria and Spain. Luise Henriette's ability to navigate the intricacies of this relationship was a testament to her diplomatic acumen. She understood that alliances were not static but required constant attention and adjustment. Through her letters and influence, she ensured that the bond between Brandenburg and the Dutch Republic remained strong. Even during times of tension, her efforts helped secure Dutch loans and subsidies that enabled Frederick William to rebuild Brandenburg's military and infrastructure. Her diplomatic skills were also evident in her interactions with other Protestant states. Luise Henriette maintained cordial relations with the courts of Sweden and England, recognizing the importance of a united Protestant front against Catholic hegemony. Her Calvinist faith, though deeply personal, became a tool for forging connections and fostering unity. She hosted Protestant leaders and envoys at Oranienburg Palace, using these gatherings as opportunities to strengthen Brandenburg's network of allies. In addition to her international efforts, Luise Henriette played a crucial role in managing Brandenburg's internal politics. The electorate was a patchwork of territories, each with its own interests and priorities. Frederick William's efforts to centralize authority often met resistance from local nobility and estates. Luise Henriette, with her diplomatic finesse, helped mediate these tensions, ensuring that her husband's policies were implemented without alienating key stakeholders. Her ability to balance firmness with empathy made her an invaluable partner in governance. One of the defining moments of Luise Henriette's diplomatic career came during the Franco-Dutch War, 1672 to 1678. This conflict, which pitted France and its allies against the Dutch Republic, posed a significant challenge for Brandenburg. Frederick William, faced with the threat of French aggression, needed to choose his alliances carefully. Luise Henriette's deep ties to the Dutch Republic influenced his decision to support the Dutch. Despite the risks involved, her counsel and connections ensured that Brandenburg's support was not only symbolic but also effective, providing critical assistance to the Dutch in their hour of need. Her role in the war highlighted her understanding of the broader geopolitical stakes. She recognized that a strong and independent Dutch Republic was essential for the balance of power in Europe. Her efforts to rally support for the Dutch cause, both within Brandenburg and among its allies, demonstrated her commitment to the principles of Protestant unity and resistance to absolutism. Despite her successes, Luise Henriette's diplomatic work was not without challenges. The shifting loyalties and ambitions of European powers often created obstacles that required careful navigation. Frederick William's own priorities sometimes clashed with her vision, particularly when it came to balancing military expansion with economic development. Yet, through it all, Luise Henriette remained steadfast, using her influence to advocate for policies that aligned with her belief in long-term stability and progress. Her dedication to diplomacy extended beyond the realm of politics. Luise Henriette understood that culture and education were powerful tools for fostering goodwill and understanding. She supported initiatives that promoted Brandenburg's cultural identity, commissioning works of art and literature that celebrated its history and aspirations. These efforts helped strengthen the sense of unity and pride among Brandenburg's diverse population, creating a foundation for future cooperation and loyalty. By the time Luise Henriette's health began to decline in the 1660s, her impact as a diplomatic partner was undeniable. She had helped secure alliances, resources, and opportunities that were essential for Brandenburg's recovery and growth. Her legacy in this realm was not just a matter of treaties and agreements. It was a testament to her belief in the power of connection and collaboration to overcome even the greatest challenges. As she looked back on her years in Brandenburg, Luise Henriette could take pride in the role she had played in shaping its destiny. Her contributions as a diplomat were inseparable from her work as a builder, a mother, and a patron of culture. Together with Frederick William, she had transformed Brandenburg from a land of hardship into a region of promise, setting the stage for its emergence as a major European power. In the end, Luise Henriette's diplomatic efforts were about more than advancing Brandenburg's interests. They were about building bridges between nations, faiths, and peoples. Her life serves as a reminder that diplomacy is not just the work of ministers and generals, but also of individuals who understand the value of relationships and the importance of common purpose. It is a legacy that endures, not only in the history of Brandenburg Prussia, but also in the broader story of Europe. For Luise Henriette of Orange-Nassau, the role of mother was one she embraced with the same sense of purpose and devotion that she brought to her duties as electress. Her life in Brandenburg was not only about diplomacy, culture, and governance. It was also about shaping the future through her children. As the mother of the next generation of Hohenzollerns, she understood the profound influence her upbringing, guidance, and values could have on the trajectory of Brandenburg Prussia. Luise Henriette and Frederick William's marriage, though politically arranged, developed into a partnership of mutual respect and affection. Together, they shared the joys and challenges of raising a family in an era when dynastic continuity was both a personal and political imperative. For Luise Henriette, motherhood was not simply about producing heirs. It was about nurturing leaders who could carry forward the legacy she and Frederick William were building. Their first child, Frederick, was born in 1657, a moment of great joy and relief for the couple. As the eldest son, Frederick was the focus of immense attention and expectations from an early age. Luise Henriette, drawing on her own upbringing in the House of Orange, sought to instill in him a sense of duty, resilience, and curiosity. She oversaw his early education, ensuring that he was exposed to a broad range of subjects, from history and theology to the arts and sciences. Her goal was to prepare him not just for the role of ruler, but for the complexities of leadership in a changing world. Frederick's education was shaped by the values that Luise Henriette herself embodied: a commitment to progress, a respect for tradition, and a belief in the importance of service. She encouraged him to study the successes of the Dutch Republic, particularly its innovative approaches to governance, commerce, and military strategy. At the same time, she emphasized the need to adapt these lessons to the unique challenges of Brandenburg, a region still recovering from the devastation of the 30 Years' War. Luise Henriette's approach to motherhood extended beyond formal education. She believed in leading by example, demonstrating through her own actions the qualities she wished to instill in her children. Her tireless work to improve Brandenburg's economy, infrastructure, and culture served as a living lesson in the responsibilities of leadership. Through her efforts, she taught her children that power was not an end in itself but a means to serve and uplift others. Tragically, not all of Luise Henriette's children survived to adulthood. The high infant mortality rates of the time were a constant source of sorrow for her and Frederick William. Their second son, Philip William, died in infancy, and the loss was a devastating blow. Yet, even in grief, Luise Henriette found strength, channeling her pain into a renewed determination to secure a better future for her surviving children and for Brandenburg. The couple's third son, Charles Emile, was born in 1655 and quickly became the darling of the court. Charles Emile was known for his lively personality and keen intellect, traits that endeared him to his parents and tutors alike. Luise Henriette took a special interest in his education, ensuring that he received the same rigorous training as his elder brother. Though his untimely death in 1674 cut short the promise of his potential, Luise Henriette's efforts to shape his character left a lasting impression on those who knew him. Perhaps the most significant of Luise Henriette's children was her eldest son, Frederick, who would go on to become Frederick I, the first king in Prussia. Under her guidance, Frederick developed a strong sense of identity and purpose. He was taught to appreciate both the strengths of his Dutch heritage and the unique challenges of his role as a Hohenzollern. Luise Henriette's influence was evident in his later policies, which reflected her emphasis on modernization, tolerance, and cultural advancement. As a mother, Luise Henriette also faced the challenge of balancing her children's individual needs with the demands of their collective roles within the Hohenzollern dynasty. Each child was a potential asset in the intricate web of European alliances, and their futures were often shaped by considerations of statecraft as much as by personal inclination. Luise Henriette navigated this tension with care, striving to ensure that her children were not merely pawns in the political game but individuals with agency and purpose. In addition to her sons, Luise Henriette took a keen interest in the welfare of Brandenburg's youth more broadly. She championed the establishment of schools and educational programs, particularly in rural areas, where access to learning was limited. She believed that the future of Brandenburg depended not only on the leadership of its rulers, but also on the education and empowerment of its people. Her efforts to expand educational opportunities were a testament to her belief in the transformative power of knowledge. Luise Henriette's role as a mother extended to her court and her subjects, many of whom looked to her as a maternal figure. She was known for her compassion and generosity, offering support to those in need and advocating for policies that improved the lives of Brandenburg's most vulnerable citizens. Her maternal instincts, coupled with her pragmatic approach to governance, earned her the respect and admiration of those around her. As the 1660s progressed, Luise Henriette's health began to decline, and she faced the heartbreaking realization that she might not live to see her children fully come into their own. Yet, even in the face of illness, she remained devoted to their future, She worked tirelessly to ensure that they were prepared for the challenges ahead, leaving behind a legacy of guidance and inspiration that would endure long after her passing. In 1667, Luise Henriette succumbed to tuberculosis, a loss that was deeply felt by her family and her people. Her death marked the end of an era, but her influence lived on through her children and the foundations she had laid for Brandenburg's rise. Frederick, her eldest son, would go on to fulfill many of the dreams she had nurtured, transforming Brandenburg Prussia into a major European power. Luise Henriette's legacy as a mother was not simply a matter of lineage. It was about the values she instilled and the vision she imparted. Through her children, she ensured that her work and ideals would continue to shape Brandenburg for generations to come. Her life serves as a reminder of the profound impact that one individual, guided by purpose and love, can have on the course of history. Faith was a cornerstone of Luise Henriette of Orange-Nassau's life. As a devout Calvinist, her spiritual convictions shaped not only her personal worldview but also her contributions to the governance and culture of Brandenburg. In a region still reeling from the religious fractures of the 30 Years' War, Luise Henriette played a pivotal role in fostering unity and tolerance while influencing the religious policies of her husband, Frederick William, the Great Elector. When Luise Henriette arrived in Brandenburg in 1646, she brought with her a strong Reformed faith that was deeply tied to her upbringing in the Dutch Republic. The Dutch Golden Age had not only been an era of cultural and economic prosperity, but also a time when Calvinist ideals influenced governance, education, and social reform. Luise Henriette had been raised to see faith as both a personal anchor and a public responsibility, and she carried these beliefs into her new role as electress. Brandenburg, however, was a religiously diverse land. The Peace of Westphalia had enshrined the principle of cuius regio, ius religio, allowing rulers to determine the religion of their territories. Frederick William himself was a Calvinist, but his territories included a significant number of Lutherans and Catholics, as well as smaller Protestant sections. The challenge of maintaining harmony among these groups was immense, and Luise Henriette's approach to faith played a crucial role in addressing it. From the beginning, Luise Henriette demonstrated a commitment to religious tolerance. She understood that unity could not be achieved through coercion but required mutual respect and understanding. Her Calvinist beliefs, while firm, were tempered by a pragmatism that recognized the need for compromise in a region as fragmented as Brandenburg. This approach aligned with Frederick William's own policies, which sought to balance the demands of his diverse subjects while consolidating his authority. One of Luise Henriette's most significant contributions to religious life in Brandenburg was her support for the construction and restoration of churches and religious institutions. She believed that places of worship were not only spiritual havens, but also symbols of community and resilience. Under her guidance, several Calvinist churches were built or renovated, providing spaces for worship and fellowship that reflected her commitment to faith and service. Among her most notable projects was the founding of the French Reformed Church in Berlin. This institution became a sanctuary for Huguenot refugees fleeing persecution in France, embodying Luise Henriette's belief in the importance of providing refuge and support to those in need. Her advocacy for the Huguenots was part of a broader effort to attract skilled immigrants to Brandenburg, a strategy that would later become a cornerstone of Frederick William's economic and demographic policies. Luise Henriette's influence on religious policy extended to education as well. She was a strong advocate for the establishment of schools and academies that combined religious instruction with broader intellectual pursuits. Her Calvinist faith emphasized the importance of literacy and knowledge, both as tools for personal growth and as means of understanding Scripture. Through her efforts, educational opportunities expanded for children in Brandenburg, particularly in rural areas where resources had been scarce. Her faith also informed her approach to charity and social reform. Luise Henriette believed in the Calvinist principle of stewardship, which emphasized the responsibility of the wealthy and powerful to care for the less fortunate. She supported initiatives that provided aid to the poor, the sick, and the orphaned, working to ensure that Brandenburg's recovery from the 30 Years' War included even its most vulnerable citizens. Her efforts in this regard earned her a reputation for compassion and generosity, further endearing her to her subjects. While Luise Henriette's faith was a source of strength, it also presented challenges. The religious divisions within Brandenburg meant that her Calvinist beliefs were not always universally accepted. Lutherans, in particular, often viewed Calvinism with suspicion, and tensions between the two groups occasionally flared. However, Luise Henriette's commitment to tolerance and dialogue helped to mitigate these conflicts. Her emphasis on common values, such as hard work, education, and community, provided a foundation for cooperation and mutual respect. Her partnership with Frederick William was instrumental in shaping Brandenburg's religious landscape. The Great Elector shared her Calvinist convictions but also recognized the political necessity of accommodating his diverse subjects. Together, they worked to promote policies that balanced their own beliefs with the realities of governance. This included the Edict of Potsdam in 1685, which granted religious freedom to the Huguenots and welcomed them to Brandenburg. While Luise Henriette did not live to see the edict's issuance, her influence on Frederick William's thinking was evident in its principles. Luise Henriette's faith also sustained her through personal trials. The loss of several of her children in infancy was a source of profound grief, but her Calvinist beliefs provided a framework for understanding and accepting these tragedies. She viewed her role as a mother and leader as part of a divine plan, finding solace in the idea that her work and sacrifices were contributing to a greater purpose. As her health declined in the mid-1660s, Luise Henriette's faith remained a central part of her life. She continued to attend worship services and to support religious and charitable initiatives. Even as her strength waned, her final years were marked by a sense of peace and fulfillment, grounded in the belief that she had fulfilled her responsibilities to her family, her subjects, and her faith. When Luise Henriette passed away in 1667, her death was mourned not only by her family but also by the people of Brandenburg, who had come to see her as a spiritual and moral guide. Her legacy as a woman of faith endured, shaping the policies and priorities of her husband and her children. Through her efforts, Brandenburg became a land not only of political and economic renewal but also of spiritual and cultural flourishing. Luise Henriette's story is a testament to the power of faith to inspire action and to bridge divides. Her commitment to tolerance, education, and service reflected the best ideals of her Calvinist heritage, leaving a lasting impact on the region she called home. In her life and work, she demonstrated that faith, when paired with compassion and vision, could be a force for unity and progress in even the most challenging times. As Luise Henriette of Orange-Nassau settled into her role as Electress of Brandenburg, the shadow of war loomed ever-present over her adopted homeland. Although the 30 Years' War had ended in 1648, its scars remained deeply etched into the landscape and psyche of Brandenburg. The electorate's recovery was fragile, and new conflicts threatened to undo the progress made under the leadership of Luise Henriette and Frederick William. The Franco-Dutch War, 1672 to 1678, would prove to be a defining period, testing their resilience and the foundations they had painstakingly laid. The Franco-Dutch War erupted as France, under Louis XIV, sought to expand its influence and diminish the power of the Dutch Republic. For Luise Henriette, whose Dutch heritage tied her deeply to the fate of her homeland, the war was both a personal and political crisis. The Dutch Republic, long a bastion of Protestant strength and innovation, faced the full might of France's military machine. Brandenburg, though still rebuilding from its own hardships, was called upon to decide its role in the unfolding conflict. Frederick William, the Great Elector, was initially cautious. Brandenburg's resources were limited, and engaging in a major war risked undoing years of careful rebuilding. Yet, Luise Henriette's influence as both a trusted advisor and a voice for her homeland weighed heavily on the elector's deliberations. She recognized that the survival of the Dutch Republic was not merely a matter of familial loyalty, but also crucial for the balance of power in Europe and the security of Brandenburg itself. Luise Henriette's diplomatic skills came to the forefront during this crisis. Her correspondence with her family in The Hague became a lifeline of information and strategy. She used her connections to advocate for a united Protestant front against France, emphasizing the shared interests of Brandenburg and the Dutch Republic. Her ability to articulate the broader stakes of the conflict helped Frederick William see beyond the immediate risks and understand the long-term benefits of supporting the Dutch cause. In 1674, Frederick William made the pivotal decision to join the war on the side of the Dutch Republic and its allies. This marked a turning point for Brandenburg, as the electorate shifted from a policy of cautious neutrality to active engagement in European geopolitics. Luise Henriette's influence was instrumental in shaping this decision, and her support provided Frederick William with the confidence to commit his forces to the cause. Brandenburg's entry into the war was not without challenges. Its military, though improving under Frederick William's reforms, was still relatively small compared to the vast armies of France. Yet, the electorate's strategic position and Frederick William's tactical acumen enabled it to play a significant role. In 1675, Brandenburg achieved a stunning victory at the Battle of Fehrbellin, where Frederick William's forces decisively defeated the Swedish army, an ally of France. This victory was a major boost to Brandenburg's prestige and marked the emergence of the Hohenzollerns as a formidable military power. Throughout the war, Luise Henriette provided more than moral support. Her administrative skills and attention to detail were invaluable in ensuring that Brandenburg's economy and infrastructure could sustain the demands of the conflict. She worked tirelessly to manage resources, oversee logistics, and maintain morale among the population. Her efforts ensured that the burdens of war were distributed as evenly as possible, preventing widespread unrest and discontent. The war also brought personal challenges for Luise Henriette. The strain of seeing her homeland ravaged by conflict and her adopted land embroiled in battles tested her resilience. Yet, her faith and determination never wavered. She drew strength from her belief that the sacrifices being made were necessary for a greater good: the survival of Protestantism, the security of Brandenburg, and the preservation of the values she held dear. The end of the Franco-Dutch War in 1678 brought relief but also a new set of challenges. The Treaty of Nijmegen, which concluded the war, reshaped the balance of power in Europe. While the Dutch Republic managed to retain its independence, it emerged weakened, and France continued to loom as a dominant force. For Brandenburg, the war had been a proving ground, demonstrating its potential as a significant player in European politics. Luise Henriette's influence during this period had helped solidify the electorate's position and set the stage for its future ambitions. The legacy of the war was deeply intertwined with Luise Henriette's contributions. Her unwavering support for Frederick William, her advocacy for the Dutch cause, and her tireless work on the home front had been critical to Brandenburg's success. The lessons learned during the conflict would shape the policies of her husband and, later, her children, as Brandenburg continued its rise to prominence. In the years that followed, the shadow of war remained a constant presence, but Brandenburg was better prepared to face it. Luise Henriette's efforts to strengthen the electorate's economy, infrastructure, and alliances had provided a foundation of resilience that would endure long after her time. Her role during the Franco-Dutch War was a testament to her ability to balance personal loyalty with political pragmatism, ensuring that both her homeland and her adopted land emerged stronger from the trials of conflict. As the 1670s came to a close, Luise Henriette's health began to decline, but her spirit and dedication remained undiminished. She had faced the shadow of war with courage and resolve, leaving behind a legacy of leadership and service that would inspire future generations. Her story is a reminder that even in the darkest of times, vision and determination can light the way forward. While wars and political challenges defined much of Luise Henriette of Orange-Nassau's life as Electress of Brandenburg, Her legacy as a patron of culture and the arts represents another dimension of her remarkable influence. In an era when art, architecture, and intellectual pursuits were vital expressions of power and identity, Luise Henriette played a pivotal role in shaping Brandenburg's cultural renaissance. Her vision extended beyond immediate needs, focusing on the creation of a cultural identity that would inspire and endure. When Luise Henriette arrived in Brandenburg, she brought with her the artistic sensibilities of the Dutch Golden Age. The Netherlands during her youth had been a hub of creativity, with painters such as Rembrandt and Vermeer capturing the subtleties of human experience, and architects designing elegant, functional buildings that reflected the Republic's prosperity. These influences were deeply ingrained in her, and she sought to bring a similar vibrancy to Brandenburg, a region still recovering from the devastation of the 30 Years' War. One of Luise Henriette's earliest cultural initiatives was the transformation of Oranienburg Palace. Originally a modest hunting lodge gifted to her by Frederick William, the palace became a canvas for her artistic vision. She worked with Dutch architects and landscapers to redesign the estate, creating a residence that combined Dutch elegance with Brandenburg's emerging grandeur. The gardens, with their symmetrical patterns and vibrant flora, were a particular point of pride, symbolizing harmony and renewal. Oranienburg Palace became more than just a personal retreat. It was a cultural hub. Under Luise Henriette's patronage, the palace hosted artists, musicians, and intellectuals, fostering an atmosphere of creativity and exchange. These gatherings not only enriched the cultural life of Brandenburg, but also enhanced its reputation among European courts. Visitors to Oranienburg were struck by its blend of refinement and innovation, a testament to the Electress's commitment to both beauty and progress. Luise Henriette's support for the arts extended beyond her own residence. She was instrumental in commissioning public works that celebrated Brandenburg's resilience and aspirations. Among her notable projects was the restoration of churches and civic buildings damaged during the 30 Years' War. These efforts were not merely functional. They were designed to inspire pride and hope among the people. By beautifying public spaces, Luise Henriette sought to create a sense of community and identity that transcended the hardships of the past. Music also held a special place in Luise Henriette's cultural vision. She supported the development of Brandenburg's musical tradition, encouraging performances and fostering local talent. Her court became a center for musical innovation, attracting composers and musicians who enriched the region's cultural landscape. Music, for Luise Henriette, was not just entertainment. It was a means of expressing shared values and aspirations, a universal language that brought people together. Her contributions to education further underscored her role as a cultural patron. Luise Henriette believed that knowledge and creativity were intertwined, and she championed initiatives that expanded access to learning. She supported the establishment of schools that incorporated arts and humanities into their curricula, ensuring that the next generation would be equipped not only with practical skills but also with an appreciation for culture and beauty. Her efforts laid the groundwork for Brandenburg's later intellectual flourishing, which would become a hallmark of the Hohenzollern dynasty. Religion, too, played a role in Luise Henriette's cultural endeavors. As a devout Calvinist, she saw art and architecture as expressions of faith. She supported the creation of religious works that reflected the spiritual values of her community, commissioning altarpieces, stained glass, and sacred music that inspired devotion and reverence. Her approach was inclusive, reflecting her belief in the importance of fostering unity among Brandenburg's diverse religious groups. Luise Henriette's cultural contributions were not limited to her own time. She understood the importance of legacy and worked to ensure that Brandenburg's cultural advancements would endure for generations. She encouraged the documentation of her projects, commissioning written accounts and illustrations that preserved the story of Brandenburg's transformation. These records would later serve as a source of inspiration and pride for her descendants, reminding them of the Electress's vision and achievements. Her partnership with Frederick William was crucial to the success of her cultural initiatives. while the Great Elector focused on military and political strategy. Luise Henriette provided the creative and social leadership that complemented his efforts. Together, they forged a vision for Brandenburg that balanced strength with refinement, power with beauty. Their collaboration reflected a shared belief in the transformative power of culture, a belief that would define Brandenburg's identity as it rose to prominence. Despite her many successes, Luise Henriette faced challenges in her role as a cultural patron. Brandenburg's resources were limited, and the demands of rebuilding its economy and military often took precedence over artistic endeavors. Yet, she remained steadfast in her commitment, finding creative ways to fund and support her projects. Her resourcefulness and determination ensured that the arts continued to flourish even in times of hardship. As her health began to decline in the 1660s, Luise Henriette's focus on legacy became even more pronounced. She worked to ensure that the institutions and initiatives she had nurtured would outlast her, leaving a lasting impact on Brandenburg's cultural landscape. Her final years were marked by a sense of fulfillment, knowing that she had helped lay the foundations for a brighter future. When Luise Henriette passed away in 1667, her death was mourned not only by her family and court but also by the artists, musicians, and intellectuals whose lives she had touched. Her contributions to Brandenburg's culture were celebrated as a vital part of its recovery and growth, a reminder that beauty and creativity are as essential to a nation's strength as its armies and economies. Luise Henriette's legacy as a patron of culture and the arts endures in the history of Brandenburg, Prussia. Her vision transformed a war-torn region into a land of inspiration and innovation, setting the stage for its rise as a cultural and political power. Through her work, she demonstrated that the arts are not merely a reflection of society, but a force for its renewal and advancement, a legacy that continues to resonate to this day. As the 1660s progressed, Luise Henriette of Orange-Nassau began to sense the toll of a life filled with relentless duty, personal loss, and the weight of her many responsibilities. By the time she reached her 40s, her health was in noticeable decline, though her spirit and dedication to Brandenburg remained unshaken. These final years would be a poignant period of reflection, legacy building, and quiet triumphs as she sought to secure the future of the electorate she had come to call home. Luise Henriette's declining health was marked by symptoms of tuberculosis, a common and often fatal illness in the 17th century. Despite her condition, she refused to retreat into isolation or idleness. Instead, she intensified her efforts to ensure that the progress she and Frederick William had achieved would endure. She worked tirelessly on projects to strengthen Brandenburg's economy, culture, and governance, leaving no aspect of her responsibilities unattended. One of her primary concerns during this time was the future of her children. The deaths of several of her offspring had deeply affected her, but her surviving sons remained a source of hope and purpose. She was particularly invested in the upbringing of her eldest son, Frederick, whom she saw as the key to Brandenburg's continued rise. Though still young, Frederick had already shown promise as a leader, and Luise Henriette devoted herself to preparing him for his eventual role as elector. Education was at the heart of her efforts, drawing on her own experiences as a child of the Dutch Republic. Luise Henriette emphasized the importance of a well-rounded curriculum that combined intellectual rigor with moral and practical lessons. She oversaw Frederick's education, ensuring that he was exposed to a variety of subjects, from political theory and military strategy to history and the arts. She also sought to instill in him the values that had guided her own life: duty, resilience, and a commitment to the welfare of his people. Beyond her children, Luise Henriette was also deeply concerned with the state of Brandenburg itself. She recognized that the gains made during her tenure as electress could easily be undone without careful stewardship. To this end, she worked closely with Frederick William to solidify the reforms and policies they had implemented. Together, they focused on strengthening Brandenburg's infrastructure, fostering economic growth, and promoting religious tolerance. ensuring that the electorate would be resilient in the face of future challenges. One of the most significant projects of Luise Henriette's final years was the continued development of Oranienburg Palace. By this time, the estate had become a symbol of Brandenburg's renewal and a testament to her vision as a builder and patron of culture. Even as her health deteriorated, she took a personal interest in the palace's ongoing improvements, working with architects, landscapers, and artists to ensure that it reflected the ideals she held dear. For Luise Henriette, Oranienburg was more than a residence. It was a legacy, a place that embodied the promise of a brighter future for Brandenburg. Her final years were also marked by a deepening of her spiritual life. As a devout Calvinist, Luise Henriette found solace and strength in her faith, particularly as her physical condition worsened. She spent more time in prayer and worship, often reflecting on the trials and triumphs of her life. Her faith provided a framework for understanding her suffering, which she viewed as part of a divine plan. In her quiet moments, she found peace in the belief that her work had been guided by a higher purpose. Despite her illness, Luise Henriette remained active in her role as electress. She continued to correspond with diplomats, oversee charitable initiatives, and advise Frederick William on matters of state. Her determination to contribute, even in the face of personal hardship, was a source of inspiration to those around her. Members of her court and the people of Brandenburg admired her resilience and regarded her as a figure of strength and grace. As her condition worsened in 1667, Luise Henriette began to prepare for the end. She took care to ensure that her children would be supported and guided after her passing, entrusting their education and welfare to trusted advisors. She also worked to finalize her charitable initiatives, ensuring that the institutions she had established would continue to serve the people of Brandenburg. Her thoughts often turned to her homeland in the Dutch Republic, and she remained in close contact with her family in The Hague, finding comfort in their letters and support. On June 18, 1667, Luise Henriette passed away at the age of 39. Her death was a profound loss for Brandenburg, and her passing was mourned deeply by her family, court, and subjects. Frederick William, who had relied on her as both a partner and confidant, was devastated. He paid tribute to her by continuing many of the projects they had begun together, ensuring that her legacy would live on. Luise Henriette's impact on Brandenburg was evident in the years following her death. Her children, particularly her eldest son Frederick, carried forward the values and vision she had instilled in them. Frederick would later ascend to the throne as Frederick I, the first king in Prussia, fulfilling the dreams of greatness that his mother had nurtured. Her influence was also felt in the cultural and institutional advancements she had championed, which became integral to Brandenburg Prussia's identity. In her final years, Luise Henriette had achieved something remarkable. She had transformed a war-torn region into a land of promise and potential, laying the groundwork for its future as a European power. Her life, though short, was marked by an extraordinary combination of vision, determination, and compassion. She remains an enduring symbol of the power of leadership, faith, and love to overcome even the greatest challenges. As Oranienburg Palace stood as a testament to her legacy, so too did the lives of those she had touched, her children, her people, and the countless individuals inspired by her example. In life and in death, Luise Henriette of Orange-Nassau was a builder, a diplomat, a mother, and a beacon of hope, leaving an indelible mark on the history of Brandenburg and beyond. The legacy of Luise Henriette of Orange-Nassau extended far beyond her lifetime, influencing not only her immediate family but also the trajectory of Brandenburg Prussia and the Hohenzollern dynasty. Through her foresight, values, and tireless work, she laid the foundations for the electorate's transformation into a major European power. Her vision, coupled with the actions of her descendants, ensured that her impact would resonate for generations. Luise Henriette's greatest legacy was her eldest son, Frederick, who would go on to become Frederick I, the first king in Prussia. From an early age, Frederick had been shaped by his mother's influence. Her commitment to education, cultural refinement, and religious tolerance had instilled in him a sense of duty and a vision for leadership that balanced ambition with compassion. As he ascended to power, Frederick carried forward many of the principles that Luise Henriette had championed, building on the foundations she and Frederick William had established. One of the most significant milestones in the Hohenzollern legacy was the elevation of Brandenburg, Prussia, to a kingdom in 1701. Frederick's coronation as king in Prussia marked the culmination of decades of effort to consolidate and elevate the status of the Hohenzollern realm. While Frederick's accomplishments were undoubtedly his own, the groundwork laid by Luise Henriette and Frederick William had made this achievement possible. The reforms in governance, military organization, and economic development initiated during their time were essential to Brandenburg Prussia's rise. The values that Luise Henriette instilled in her children continued to shape the Hohenzollern dynasty. Her emphasis on tolerance and unity left a lasting mark on the governance of Brandenburg Prussia. Her descendants, while navigating the complexities of European power politics, often sought to uphold the principles of religious coexistence and social stability that she had championed. The Edict of Potsdam, issued by Frederick William in 1685, was a direct reflection of her influence, granting religious freedom to Huguenot refugees and strengthening Brandenburg Prussia's economy and cultural life. Luise Henriette's contributions to culture and the arts also became a defining feature of the Hohenzollern legacy. The cultural renaissance she had fostered during her lifetime inspired her descendants to continue investing in the arts, architecture, and education. Under Frederick's reign, Prussia became a center of cultural and intellectual activity, attracting artists, musicians, and thinkers from across Europe. The seeds of this flourishing had been planted during Luise Henriette's time, when she had demonstrated the transformative power of beauty and knowledge. The physical legacy of Luise Henriette's efforts could be seen in the enduring landmarks she had helped create. Oranienburg Palace, her beloved residence, remained a symbol of the electorate's resilience and progress. Over the years, it became a place of historical significance, a tangible reminder of her vision and determination. The gardens she had designed, the art she had commissioned, and the institutions she had supported all stood as testaments to her belief in the potential of Brandenburg and its people. Her influence was not limited to Brandenburg, Prussia. Through her Dutch heritage and her connections to the House of Orange-Nassau, Luise Henriette had strengthened ties between the Hohenzollerns and other European powers. These relationships proved invaluable as Brandenburg Prussia navigated the complex web of alliances and rivalries that defined 17th and 18th century Europe. Her ability to bridge cultures and build alliances became a hallmark of the Hohenzollern approach to diplomacy. Luise Henriette's enduring legacy also lay in the example she set as a leader. Her life demonstrated that leadership was not solely the domain of kings and generals, but could also be exercised through quiet strength, compassion, and vision. She showed that cultural and social advancements were as crucial to a nation's success as military victories and territorial expansion. This holistic approach to governance became a defining characteristic of the Hohenzollern dynasty, shaping its identity as it rose to prominence. Even in the centuries that followed, Luise Henriette's story continued to inspire. Historians, artists, and writers have celebrated her contributions, recognizing her as a key figure in Brandenburg Prussia's transformation. Her life serves as a reminder of the power of individual agency to shape history. Even in the face of adversity, through her actions, she demonstrated that true leadership is about building a legacy that uplifts others and creates a foundation for future generations. As Brandenburg Prussia evolved into the Kingdom of Prussia and, later, the German Empire, the ideals Luise Henriette had championed remained relevant. Her emphasis on education, tolerance, and cultural enrichment continued to guide the Hohenzollern rulers as they navigated the challenges of modernity. Though the political landscape changed, the principles she embodied endured, shaping the character of the dynasty she helped define. In the end, Luise Henriette's legacy was not just about the achievements of her time, but about the enduring values she left behind. Her life was a testament to the idea that greatness is not measured solely by power or conquest, but by the ability to inspire, create, and uplift. Through her children, her work, and her vision, she left an indelible mark on history, ensuring that her contributions would be remembered and celebrated for generations to come. As the story of Luise Henriette of Orange-Nassau comes to its conclusion, it is clear that her life was far more than a supporting role in the rise of Frederick William, the Great Elector. While he is often celebrated as the architect of Brandenburg, Prussia's ascendance, Luise Henriette was a vital partner, advisor, and force of transformation in her own right. Her story intertwines the personal with the political, the cultural with the spiritual, leaving a legacy that shaped not only her own era but also the generations that followed. Luise Henriette's life can be understood as a tapestry woven from the threads of resilience, vision, and compassion, born into the vibrant world of the Dutch Republic. She carried the values of innovation, tolerance, and cultural enrichment into a land still reeling from the devastation of war. Her marriage to Frederick William was more than a union of two powerful houses. It was a partnership that balanced his military and political ambitions with her cultural, economic, and social contributions. Her role as a builder was evident in the physical transformations she oversaw. Oranienburg Palace, with its blend of Dutch elegance and German grandeur, symbolized her belief in the power of beauty and order to inspire and uplift. The agricultural innovations she introduced revitalized Brandenburg's economy, while her patronage of the arts laid the groundwork for a cultural renaissance that would define the Hohenzollern dynasty. As a diplomat, Luise Henriette's influence extended far beyond Brandenburg's borders. Her Dutch heritage and familial connections allowed her to forge alliances that strengthened the electorate's position in Europe. Her counsel during the Franco-Dutch War and her support for the Protestant cause demonstrated her ability to navigate the complexities of 17th-century geopolitics with both pragmatism and principle. Yet, Luise Henriette's greatest legacy may lie in her role as a mother and mentor to the next generation. Her efforts to educate and guide her children, particularly her eldest son Frederick, ensured that the values she cherished would endure. Frederick's rise as the first king in Prussia was a testament to her foresight and influence, and the policies he pursued reflected her emphasis on progress, unity, and cultural advancement. Beyond her tangible achievements, Luise Henriette's life offers a profound lesson in leadership. She demonstrated that true power lies not in domination but in the ability to inspire, connect, and create. Her actions were guided by a sense of duty not only to her family and her subjects but also to a higher ideal of service and stewardship. Her faith, deeply rooted in Calvinist principles, provided her with the strength to face adversity and the wisdom to lead with humility and grace. The impact of Luise Henriette's life was felt not only in Brandenburg but also across Europe. She embodied the potential of women to shape history through roles that transcended traditional boundaries. As a builder, diplomat, mother, and cultural patron, she showed that leadership could take many forms and that the legacy of a ruler is measured not just in conquests or titles but in the lives touched and the futures made possible. When she passed away in 1667, Brandenburg mourned the loss of a leader whose contributions had been as profound as they were transformative. Her death marked the end of an era, but her influence endured in the policies, institutions, and traditions she had helped establish. Frederick William honored her memory by continuing many of her initiatives, ensuring that her work would not be forgotten. In the centuries that followed, Luise Henriette's story has often been overshadowed by the achievements of her husband and descendants. Yet, her role in Brandenburg's transformation is undeniable. She was the steady hand behind the Great Elector, the quiet force that enabled his vision to become reality. Through her, Brandenburg became more than a land recovering from war. It became a beacon of resilience, progress, and hope. The story of Luise Henriette of Orange-Nassau is a reminder of the power of individuals to shape history. Even in the face of immense challenges, It is a story of partnership, perseverance, and purpose, one that resonates across the centuries. Her life and legacy stand as a testament to the enduring impact of vision and determination, ensuring that she will always be remembered as the woman behind the Great Elector and as a great leader in her own right.